Hi, good morning. I'm actually going to redo this one. I don't think anybody was in the room listening, but I did see a like when I deleted it. I wasn't sure who it was, but if you want to type in the chat, feel free to type in the chat to say that you're here because that's all I can see right now because I'm using a different. I'm casting on something different called XSplit Gamecaster, and that's why you see this awesome layout over here. Um, excuse me. So, I'm going to restart this. So, we're in the Land of Stories, The Enchantress Returns. This is book number 2. If you haven't heard book number one, go ahead and join us for the wishing spell. Listen to that first. And then, once that book is done, you might want to join us for this one because you will not understand what's going on in the story right now. So, chapter 4, the principal's office. Remember, he got called into the principal's office, right? All right. Hold on, let me type a little something in the chat. All right. Connor had only been sitting outside the principal's office for 10 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours. Ever feel that way? Where you're doing something and it feels like time is going really, really fast, but it's only been 10 minutes. Yeah, I was talking about that the other day with my friends. Anyways, the mystery of why he was there was picking at his psyche like a pair of hungry buzzards. Oops, clicking on the wrong side. He had been a surprisingly good student this year. Not as good as his sister, perhaps, but good nevertheless. Connor's grades were decent, although he probably could have done better in science and math, as he imagined most students could. Besides occasionally forgetting which revolution happened where, he was doing fairly well in his history class, too. And for the first time in his life, he was actually enjoying assignments in his English class. He was confident he hadn't done anything wrong. So why was he there? He grew paranoid someone had possibly framed him. Was he being held responsible for the graffiti on the lockers or the goldfish put in the faculty toilets? Sure, Connor thought those pranks were hilarious, but he hadn't done them. If they didn't think he was guilty, did they think he knew who was and want him to testify? Could he plead the fifth in school? Did he have the right to a lawyer or a phone call? Has your brain ever done that? It keeps running, right? You know you're not in trouble. Your mom calls you over or your dad calls you over and you go over and you know you did nothing wrong, but you're going through all the scenarios in your mind and you're like, wait, but I didn't do that one. Okay, so am I getting in trouble for this? And you go through all these different scenarios, right? Could kind of go crazy with that. The door to the principal's office opened and a girl ran out in tears. Connor instantly tensed. Mr. Bailey, Miss Peters called from inside her office. Wait, Miss Peters? Was it? She his teacher? Connor gulped. Hearing her call out his name was just as terrifying today as it had been when she taught him in the 6th grade. Yeah, she taught him in 6th grade. A huge promotion was the last thing she had expected, but Mrs. Peters had recently come up in the world. After 25 long years of teaching, Miss Peters had made the tough decision to retire. The subject had been on the veterans educator's mind in quite some time. Unbeknownst to her students, Miss Peters kept a calendar at her desk for years and marked down the days until she was eligible. I think all teachers do that, huh? She often daydreamed about a life after teaching. She planned all the exotic vacations she wanted to take. She made a list of all the fixes around her condo she'd finally have the time to make. She assembled everything she needed to start a vegetable garden in her small yard. In other words, she was more than ready. But in the final weeks leading up to the conclusion of her teaching career, Miss Peters received the offer to become a principal. As appealing as a life of gardening and relaxation was, a life as principal gave her the essence of what she loved the most about being a teacher. What did she love? Authority over impressionable youngsters. Needless to say, she didn't hesitate to take the job. She thrived in the powerful position of administering punishment, and occasionally something would come up that allowed her to do what she loved more than anything, which is why she called Connor Bailey into her office. Remember when he was giving a presentation, when somebody was giving a presentation, she sat right behind him and he could feel her breathing on his neck. Remember that? That was in book 1, by the way. Have a seat, Miss Peters ordered. Connor sat across from her so obediently he reminded himself of Buster, but didn't expect to be rewarded with a biscuit. His eyes wandered around the room. He noticed Miss Peters decorated her office in the same patterns and floral prints as the dresses she wore. Kinda tacky, huh? Do you know why I've called you in here today? Mrs. Peters asked. She wasn't even looking at him. Her eyes were busy scanning through a stack of papers in her hands. Not a clue, Connor said. He could almost see what the papers were in the reflection of her glasses. I wanted to talk to you about your writing you've been doing in your English class, she said, finally making eye contact. Connor realized the papers she was going through were in his handwriting. He panicked. Is this about my essay on To Kill a Mockingbird? He asked. I know I wrote one of the saddest parts about the book is that a girl is named Scout, but I talked to Miss York about my approach and understand why it could have been better. Miss Peters' eyes squinted and her brows flexed in a judgmental manner. This was bound to happen at least once when she was in the same room as Connor. Excuse me. Or maybe this is about my report on Animal Farm, Connor said. I know I said I wish George Orwell had used something to represent politics that didn't give me a major craving for a bacon cheeseburger, but that's really how I felt. I wasn't trying to be funny. No, Mr. Bailey, Miss Peters said. I called you to my office to talk about the creative writing you've been working on in Miss York's class. Oh? Connor asked. Creative writing was actually his favorite part of the class. How am I screwing that up? You're not, Miss Peters said. It's fantastic. Connor's head jerked in disbelief. Did you just say what I think you said, Connor asked. I believe so, Miss Peters said, almost as surprised as he was. Miss York was afraid your stories might have been plagiarized, so she sent them to me to look over. But they're unlike anything I've ever read. I assured her they appeared very original to me. Connor was having difficulty processing it all. Miss Peters, of all people, was complimenting and defending him. So I'm in here for a good thing? Connor asked. A very good thing, Miss Peters said. Your stories and perspectives on fairy tales characters are wonderful. I loved your stories about the charming dynasty searching for the long-lost charming brother and the evil queen's long-lost lover being trapped in her magic mirror, and Trix, the misbehaving fairy, and Troll Bella, the homely troll princess, are such imaginative new characters. It's very impressive. Thank you, Connor said. Can I ask you what inspired these stories? Miss Peters said. Connor gulped. Oh. He didn't know how to answer. Technically, he had used the class to write about his experiences. So the stories weren't necessarily creative writing. Was it considered lying even if he couldn't tell the truth? They just came to me, Connor said with a shrug. I can't really explain it. Miss Peters did something Connor had never seen her do before. She smiled at him. I was hoping you would say that, Miss Peters said. She retrieved a folder from the inside of her desk. I took the liberty of looking at the student profile you filled out at the beginning of school. I found it interesting that under future career aspirations, you simply wrote something cool. Connor nodded. I stand by that, he said. Well, unless you have the goal of becoming a professional snowman, is it safe to presume you're open to suggestions? Miss Peters asked. Sure, Connor said. He still hadn't thought of any jobs that fit the description. Mr. Bailey, have you ever considered becoming a writer? Miss Peters said. If these stories are any indication, with time and practice, I think you may have what it takes. Although they were the only people in the room, Connor had to remind himself she was talking to him. A writer? Connor asked. Me? The thought had never crossed his mind. His head instantly filled with doubts regarding the prospect, like white blood cells attacking a virus. Yes, you, Miss Peters said and pointed at him for further distinction. But aren't writers supposed to be super smart? Connor asked. Don't they say things like, I concur, and I don't identify with the likes of this? Those kinds of people are writers, not me. They'd laugh at me if I tried being one of them. Miss Peters exhaled. A small gust of air through her nose, which Connor remembered was her version of a laugh. Intelligence is not a competition, she said. There is plenty to go around, and there are many ways it can be demonstrated. But anyone can write, right? Connor asked. I mean, that's why authors get judged so harshly, isn't it? Because technically everyone could do it if they wanted to. Just because anyone can do something doesn't mean everyone should, Miss Peters said. Besides, anyone with an internet connection feels they have the credentials to critique or belittle anything these days. I feel like that's so true today, huh? I suppose, Connor said, but his defeated look said otherwise. What makes you think I'll be a good writer? My stories are so simple compared to other ones out there, and I don't have a very good vocabulary, and I'm worthless without spell check. Miss Peters took off her glasses and massaged her eyes. Connor was still a challenging student to get through to. Having something worth telling and a passion to tell it are what makes you a good writer, Miss Peters said. I can't tell you how many times I read novels and articles that used complicated words and witty wordplay to cover up the fact that they had absolutely no story to tell. A good story should be enjoyed. Sometimes simplicity can go a long way. Kind of like this book, huh? Connor still wasn't sold on the idea. I just don't know if it's for me. You don't have to decide right now, Miss Peters said. I'm only asking you to think about it. I would hate it if somebody with your imagination graduated and didn't do something cool with it. Or something cool with it, right? She locked eyes with him, and another rare, small smile appeared on her face. I have two loves in my career. One, reprimanding, and encouraging. Miss Peters went on. Thank you for letting me encourage today. I don't get many opportunities. No problem, Connor said. It's nice to be in the other category for a change. Miss Peters put her glasses back on and handed Connor his stack of papers. He figured their meeting was over now and headed to the door, relieved not to be in tears like his principal's prior guest. I'm so proud of you, Connor, Miss Peters said, just as he reached the door handle. You've come a long way from napping in my class. All Connor could do was smirk sweetly at her. If you had told him a year and a half ago that one day Mrs. Peters would become one of his greatest supporters, or refers to him by his first name, he would have never believed it. Do you guys remember what Miss Peters used to call him? She used to not call him Connor. She used to call him Mr. Oh, I forgot their last name. Mr. Bailey, right? Mr. Bailey, come over here, please. Remember she used to do that in the beginning? In the old book. Connor mulled things over as he walked home. His thoughts soared into the realm of possibilities and sank into the realm of uncertainty. Had Mrs. Peters gone mad, or was he, Connor Bailey, actually capable of becoming a writer one day? Could he actually make a career out of writing about the experiences he and his sister had had in the fairy tale world? Would anyone want to read his stories about Trollbella and Trix, or the Evil Queen and the Big Bad Wolf Pack, and Jack and Goldilocks? Would those people mind if he wrote about them? If he ever saw her again, would Goldilocks beat the living daylights out of him for writing about the love triangle between her, Jack, and Red Riding Hood? Connor figured people had been writing the same stories about them for centuries. Surely they wouldn't mind if he gave the word little updates here and there. But what about Alex? She had as much ownership over the experiences as he did. Would it bother her if he started sharing them with the world? Alex had always been the one with a future, not him. Planning had always been her specialty. Connor always expected she would grow up to be a doctor or a lawyer or president. Unfortunately, he hadn't given his own future very much thought, so any prospect seemed like a stretch. Connor realized he wanted to get Alex's input on all of this. But as he reached their house, he came to a halt. There was something there he didn't expect to see. What's Bob doing here? Connor asked himself, recognizing the car parked outside of their house. The front door flew open before Connor could open it himself. Alex was standing on the other side, wide-eyed and white-faced. "Finally!" she said in relief. "What's going on?" Connor asked. "Why is Bob here?" "He wanted to talk to us before Mom got home," Alex said. "He knows what we know and said he wanted to ask us something. I'm pretty sure I know what it is." "What?" Connor asked, completely oblivious. "Just get inside," Alex told him. I think there's about to be a major development." What do you guys think is a major development? I don't know. You'll find out tomorrow on chapter 5. Also, how do you think Alex is going to respond to Connor's thinking about writing a book? What do you guys think? Do you think she'll give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Well, I guess we got to read on. Keep listening to find out. And don't forget to smash that like button. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Sorry I was a little late today. All right. Bye, guys.